I got kicked out of my own house for being too local. 30 minutes later, the whole street shook under a convoy of black SUVs. If it were you, what would you have done? Run, hide, or watch the man who hurt you realize who he'd just messed with? My name is Emma, and I'm from a small lakeside town in Vermont, where people wave from porches, and you can hear the church bell at noon if the wind is right. I grew up on hand-me-downs and hand-picked blueberries with parents who taught me that saying thank you matters more than sounding smart. Kindness, not status. That's the culture that raised me. So when I met Daniel at a community event in Boston, I thought I'd met a different kind of city man, the kind who liked quiet things. He was all polish and certainty. Tailored suit, easy laugh, those confident answers that fill a room. He said he liked that I listened. He said my voice calmed him down after long days in a world that worships noise. You know what I mean? We fell in love fast. Or maybe I fell hard and he fell for an idea. He proposed with a clean diamond in a quiet chapel by the lake. I wore an ivory dress that wasn't expensive but fit like it had been waiting for me. My dad called from Zurich after the ceremony. Travel delays, he said, proud of me, sorry he couldn't be there. My dad is one of those men who move silently and never brag. That silence, people misunderstand it. We moved into Daniel's modern house outside Boston, a glass and chrome sort of place where your voice echoes and everything smells like metal and lemon cleaner. I tried to warm it up. Candles in the kitchen, a quilt on the couch, cornbread in the oven on Sundays. At first he smiled and said it was cute, then he started correcting me. My grammar, my shoes, the way I said hello to the gardener. You'll get used to it, small town girl, he joked, but the edge in his voice was sharp enough to cut. Tiny cuts every day. If it were you, would you laugh it off? Or would you start editing yourself just to keep the peace? I edited myself. New dresses, higher heels. I didn't know how to walk in RSVP. Yes to parties where people talked, deal flow and exits, while I nodded like I was listening to a foreign language. I'd serve a roast chicken with rosemary and lemon, and watch him wince because the plating wasn't upscale. He'd introduce me with a little chuckle. Emma's still adjusting. People laughed, and I pretended I didn't hear it. The neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, caught me at the mailbox one afternoon and said, "Don't let that husband of yours make you small." I smiled, said I was fine, then cried in the laundry room where the washer could drown out the sound. You want a pattern interrupt? Here it is. The night everything tilted. Daniel had clients over. I set the table, polished the glassware, even learned the correct pronunciation of a wine I couldn't afford. I got one name wrong. One. Laughter around the table, the kind that floats like perfume and stings like bleach. He did nothing to stop it. No worse, he joined in. She's from a small town, he said, and the room glowed with that smug little warmth people share when they think they're above someone else. I held the smile until the last guest left. Then I told him, calm and steady, I'm your wife, not your project, not your charity case, and not your punchline. I deserve respect. He turned to me with glassy eyes and the kind of look that says a man's pride is a fragile thing. Respect, he repeated, like the word was a joke. He kept talking, and the words got meaner, and then, slap. The sound bounced off that gorgeous open floor plan and didn't stop. I stood there with my cheeks stinging, and time got thin and slow. He froze for a second, then blamed me. You pushed me, he said, like a script he'd prepared in case he ever needed it. I didn't argue. I walked upstairs, put 3 things in a bag, and left before the apology could fake its way into a sentence. Yeah, that happened. I didn't run home to my mother. I went to a small inn owned by Mrs. Thompson's cousin, a bed by a window, city lights like a faraway campfire. I tried to sleep, but that kind of sleep doesn't visit hearts in this state. Right before sunrise, I scrolled to my dad's number. Dad Zurich. My hands were shaking so hard the phone kept slipping. He picked up on the second ring. "Emma, my love," he said, his voice steady like a hallway light that never turns off. I told him what happened, and the line went quiet, heavy, not with judgment, but with the weight of a man who has already decided what comes next. "Where are you?" he asked. I told him. "Stay there," he said. "You won't go back." He meant it. He always means it. Meanwhile, back at that glass house, Daniel woke up to an emptiness so loud it'd make your ears ring. No humming in the kitchen. No coffee aroma. Just echo. He probably thought I'd come back once I stopped overreacting. Pride tells you lies like that. It says the person you hurt can't survive without you. Pride is a poor weather forecaster. Stick around because what happened next will blow your mind. I heard it before I saw it. A low, rolling thunder that didn't belong to the sky. I stepped out front of the inn, the air crisp, the street just waking up. Neighbors came to their doors. Phones lifted. The convoy pulled in with the smooth confidence of people who never have to say please. The middle SUV door opened, and my dad stepped out in a navy suit, silver hair, calm face. The kind of calm that only belongs to men who can move markets without raising their voice. He looked at me first, not at the crowd, not at the cameras, not at the house across the street. "Emma," he said, and that was the first time I cried in months without apologizing for it. He held me the way he did when I was a kid who scraped her knees, that same soft shushing that says, "You're safe now, you're safe now." Then he turned. Daniel was on the porch with a coffee mug, and the moment he saw my dad, the color left his face. You could see it. The recognition, the math, the headlines he'd read over breakfast in better years. Carter. Richard Carter. He didn't say the last name out loud, but the mug said it for him when it slipped from his hand and shattered on the steps. "Who are you?" he asked anyway, stubborn as if refusing to know could protect him from the knowing. "I'm Richard Carter," my dad said, simple, like he was stating the weather. Daniel stuttered through a sentence about misunderstandings, and my dad let him finish because he is a polite man even to people who don't deserve it. When the excuses ran out of gas, my dad said, "The only misunderstanding here was believing you were man enough to deserve her." No raised voice. No threat. Just truth placed gently on the table like a bill at the end of an expensive meal. Security retrieved my things. I got in the SUV. My dad gave Daniel one last look and said the line that would replay in his head like a looped song at 2 a.m. for the rest of his life. "You married my daughter thinking she had nothing. Now you have nothing because you lost her." We pulled away, tires whispering on the asphalt, and the neighborhood fell into that thick, stunned quiet that tells you a story people will be repeating for years has just been born. Here's the twist within the twist. Until that morning, Daniel had genuinely believed I was beneath him. He thought kindness was a lack of sophistication, that my tenderness came from a lack of options. He didn't know my father, and I never told him the numbers because I didn't think they mattered. I still don't, just so we're clear. But the world we live in, it listens to money even when it ignores the truth spoken by softer voices. Do you think that's fair? The fallout started by noon. A friend of Daniel's, Ryan, called me later and apologized for not stepping in more, then told me what he could see from that side of the fence. Investors pulled out. Partners delayed deals, which is corporate for no. His own board issued a statement about reputational concerns. Headlines multiplied like flies after a picnic. He called my dad. Twice. He texted me, but the number he had was now the one I used to order pizza in college. He left a voicemail somewhere in the ether that said I didn't know who she was. My dad returned one call. "You didn't need to know who she was to treat her well," he said, and hung up. I went home. My real home, the one with my dad's study, and my mother's soft lamps and the garden path that runs along the water. I sat with my dad on the patio where the leaves show off every October, and we said very little. There are conversations that don't need words. You sit with the person who loves you and listen to the sound of your own breath returning to your body. He finally asked, "Are you angry with me for staying quiet about the money?" I shook my head. "You raised me to value kindness over comfort," I said. "I married him because I believed in that." He nodded. "The problem wasn't your belief. It was his blindness." That line walked straight into my bones and made a bed there. Days passed and peace came back like an old dog who remembers the way home. I helped at my father's foundation, sorted grant proposals, visited a community kitchen where the stew always tastes like somebody loves you. I started to sleep through the night again. I stopped flinching when a door closed too quickly or a glass clinked too loud. At the inn, the room I'd stayed in was already booked by a woman traveling for work, and I smiled because life doesn't freeze just because we suffer. It keeps going, and if we let it, it carries us forward too. Daniel. He sat in the house that suddenly felt like an empty museum. He tried to go to work and found his badge didn't open certain doors anymore. He took down our wedding photo and put it back up and took it down again, as if the answer might change depending on the lighting. He wrote an email he didn't send, then another he did. He told a friend, "I didn't just lose a wife. I lost a blessing." I believe that part. I don't hate him. Hate would mean he still takes up space in my life. I'm telling you all this not because I want to humiliate him the way he did me, but because some of you are where I was, dimming yourself to fit into a room that is wired to make you feel small. If that's you, hear me. You are not hard to love. You're just with someone who doesn't know how. Let me pause and ask you a real question. If it were you and the person who hurt you only understood your value after they met, your powerful parent, would you ever go back, or is respect that arrives because of fear just another form of disrespect? Here's another truth I learned. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it walks in quietly, hugs its daughter first, then speaks a single sentence that rearranges a man's life. My dad could have destroyed Daniel with lawsuits and press conferences. He didn't. He protected, then he stepped back. Power as protection, not intimidation. That's the model I want to carry forward. You know what I mean? You know what I come. Middle of this story, I promised you something wild. And maybe you think the convoy was it. But the wilder part was private. It was the night I sat by the lake behind my father's house and realized that I felt light. Not because Daniel was suffering. Not because of headlines or vindication. Light because the version of me who thought she had to earn her place in a room was gone. I watched the water catch the last light of day and heard my mother's voice from years ago. Character doesn't need gold to shine. That's the crown I choose now. Every day. No one gets to take it off my head again. Do you think I should have told Daniel who my father was before we got married? Would it have changed anything? Or would it just have delayed the truth? I wrestled with that one. Here's where I landed. If someone needs a pedigree to offer basic respect, they'll eventually find a reason to withdraw it when the shine fades. Respect that depends on status isn't respect, it's performance. When reporters asked me at a gala how I was coping, I told them the same thing. I'll tell you. I'm not coping, I'm growing. There's a difference. Coping is treading water with your chin just above the surface. Growing is learning the rhythm of the waves, then teaching your legs to kick. I'm kicking now. I'm teaching other women how to kick too. So what do we do with the messy part? The part where justice arrived faster because of money? Let's be honest. It did. Would the police have come just as quickly if my dad had pulled up in an old pickup instead of a motorcade? Would investors have suddenly cared about respect if the scandal weren't attached to a famous last name? I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. That's the uncomfortable question I'm leaving with you. Do we only treat people well when we're afraid of who protects them? Or can we build a world where we treat people well because it's right? Here's where I end this, and I'm going to end it exactly where the power shifted, because it's the clearest picture of justice I know. My dad standing on that porch, speaking softly to a man who thought volume equals authority. You married my daughter thinking she had nothing. Now you have nothing because you lost her. That's not revenge. That's arithmetic. You subtract respect, you lose everything that matters. Love, peace, sleep, the sound of laughter in your own kitchen. The total always comes out the same. If you stayed with me to the end, thank you. Really. I hope you heard more than a juicy story. I hope you heard the heartbeat under it. Don't tie your dignity to someone else's status. Don't confuse quiet with weak. And if you see a person who smiles a lot and talks softly, don't mistake that for lack of depth. We're oceans, not puddles. Now it's your turn. Do you think the outcome would have been different if my dad wasn't wealthy? If it were you, would you accept an apology that arrived only after a man saw your last name? Or is that just fear dressed up as remorse? Do you think that's fair? Tell me in the comments. Share your story if you've ever been underestimated, or if you had to walk out to find your voice. Challenge me if you disagree. Let's talk about it like neighbors on a porch at dusk telling the truth without shouting. And if you believe respect shouldn't depend on status, hit like, subscribe, share this with someone who needs it. And promise me this one thing. The next time someone tries to make you small, remember who you are and stand up tall even if your hands shake. I'll be here cheering you on.